As a trauma therapist this week, I've seen a lot of kiddos struggling with unaliving themselves, with thinking about it, and parents in particular feeling helpless and lost and powerless and how they can support their kids. So, today we're going to go all into that. And we're going to talk about 15 things you can do as a parent that will help your kiddo and help your family survive the current world we find ourselves in regarding LGBT rights and issues. I'm Kitty. I'm a trauma therapist and specialist here in Central Texas, and I own a group practice devoted to supporting the LGBTQIA plus community here in rural conservative Texas. So we're seeing a lot of this, talking to a lot of scared parents. But first, before you watch the rest of this video, know that we're going to be talking about some really tough things. And if now is not the time for you to watch this video, that's okay. You can pause it, you can save it, and come back to it later. But today we're going to go through 15 things and interactions and interventions you can do with your kid, with your family to support their stability and to keep them here with us. So the first thing I want you to know is I want you to think about every thought and every feeling that you have is a part, right? It's kind of got its own personality, its own fears, its own burdens, its own hopes. So every thought and feeling we have is a part of us. Might sound a little weird, might sound a little woo-woo, that's okay. We're going to go with this framework for this particular video. Each and every one of us has a multitude of parts of us, kind of like how part of you might want pizza one night, and another part of you knows you really need to eat a salad or something green. Both can be true. And the same is true for our kids. They have a part of them that really, really loves something and simultaneously really, really hates it. In the same way as all thoughts and feelings are here to serve a purpose, so is that desire to not be here anymore. And one way to look at this that's going to be really, really hard, especially if you're a scared parent, and I tell you what, I am one, right? Not only am I a member of the LGBT community, but I got a couple kids that are too. And so when kids talk about not wanting to be here anymore, there is nothing that sets a jolt of fear through a parent's heart than hearing that from their kid. So take a deep breath. And let's dive in. Every one of us has multitude parts of us that want to do something, parts of us that don't want to do something, parts of us that really wants cake for breakfast, and the other part that knows that's probably not in our best interest. So for today, we're going to continue with this model of looking at each person as if they have multiple parts, multiple and competing wishes, needs, and desires. When we look at these various wishes, needs, and desires, one of those parts that is a protector part, and that can be really hard to hear, but it's a protector that is trying to help your kid navigate overwhelming and distressing feelings of hopelessness, despair, whatever the case may be, shame, grief, fear, right? That is paired with the idea I'm in danger, I don't matter, things like that. That can be really, really hard for the kids to hold and for us to hold. And we're really, really scared. But I really want you to know as we go through this video that it's trying to help. So this part of them thinks that if they end everything, they're saving the person from pain, which, at the end of the day is kind of true, but not in the way that probably most of us would wish. So knowing that this part comes into play as we get overwhelming fear, shame, despair, and loneliness kind of comes in and tries to save the day because this part doesn't care about anything other than shutting down these overwhelming feelings, even at the cost of everything else, right? This part sees no other way to end the pain. Now, the person doesn't necessarily want to check out of existence, but this part just wants to end the suffering, and the person also wants to end the suffering. The focus is on relief, and it can't really see into the future nor can this part see how these actions might impact other people. It doesn't have the ability to see that in that moment. So saying things like, you know, I'd be sad if you weren't here doesn't land with this part. Also know that if you've had a kid who's been super super stable and rock solid and confident, that this particular part is intense and quick. It's really going to come into play when the emotions are intense and overwhelming. So, the other piece to know is that your kid, that their brain does not really have like a prefrontal cortex online right now. So it doesn't really have its logical, forward thinking, rational brain piece developed quite yet. And so it's going to be very, very reactionary. It's just going to be like, go, let's do, right? So just know that your kid's brain or your, 22 or younger kid doesn't really have a fully functioning brain either. And so they don't have the gift of a lifetime of experience to draw from and use to logic their way through this particular moment. This part also is trying to protect a very, very wounded, deeply vulnerable part of them. And that part is feeling hopeless despair, maybe shame, and it sees no other way out except to go this particular route. So what does this particular part need? To chill out a little bit, right? And to stop being such a blaring, loud noise to your kid's mind, or maybe a loved one or friend's mind. This firefighter needs four things to be able to calm down. One of those things is connection. So these parts often feel isolated and unheard and by themselves. And listening to that part without judgment can be very, very helpful in calming itself down. So remember that validation is not about saying, yes, I agree with you, and we're going to follow this course of action. Validation is simply saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm with you. So if we can talk to, see, and join with this part and its underlying needs, then we actually get that part to back off quite a bit. Now, I know that might feel a little counterintuitive. It might feel a little scary, like I'm saying it's okay. And that is not what we're saying. We're going to get all into that about how to navigate that. But this is really about the stance with which you talk to this part and as you engage in a conversation with your kid. So just know it needs connection, and it needs to know that you're not, that the person is not alone, because remember, it's protecting this wounded, fearful part. So we're just telling this part, I'm going to call it the unaliving part. We're telling the unaliving part that we're here with that wounded part, that we're not going to leave them alone. That's really all we're saying. The second thing that this part needs is compassion. It just needs to know that it's not alone. It needs to be heard. It needs to be seen. And it needs to know that you're not mad. It needs empathy and it needs connection, as we talked about just a minute ago. So when we recognize that this part is trying to protect, it can shift our relationship with that part from one of fear and judgment to understanding and connection. The third thing this part needs is alternatives. It needs alternative tools, needs alternative plans, and it needs options and alternatives for how do I look at the problems anyway. It needs alternatives for a plan B, because right now it's stuck on plan A of this one particular path, right? When we give it a plan B, it can calm down and trust that there is an option and they don't need to act so drastically. It needs to know that you are here to protect the underlying pain held by the wounded, vulnerable part that the unaliving part wants to protect. It needs to know that you're here for it. What we're going to do with our family, with our home, is we're going to create a safe and understanding environment where your teen feels supported, seen, loved for who they are. So we're going to approach it with a calm, regulated, compassionate stance. It's going to be we're going to walk in with curiosity, openness, safe landing place, right? I got you. That's kind of the mentality that we're going to go into any type of conversation about with this particular part. When we just adopt this very calm, reassuring, grounded, compassionate, curious stance, that really reduces the fear of rejection of that particular part, which in and of itself can de escalate its reactivity. One way I like to look at it is we're going to create this safe and understanding environment where the teen feels supported, seen, and heard, but we're going to use also healthy boundaries. So we're joining with our kid or our loved one who's struggling with this particular firefighter right now. We're joining with them as the vulnerable, wounded part that they are, but we're setting a boundary around that part's behavior and actions. We're saying, yep, I see you. That's really hard. And I'm joining with you. And also, we're not going to carry out this act, right? And we're going to say, I got you. I'm your safety net, right? I'm the bumper rails. Whatever your particular kid needs to hear, that is the stance we're going to go with, one of security. Okay. Step number 1, you are going to take care of yourself first. Can't pour from an empty cup. I want you to just notice. I'm afraid. I'm angry. I'm fearful. I'm scared. I'm sad. Whatever the case may be, you're just going to acknowledge your own feelings. Maybe it's despair, helplessness, hopelessness, whatever the case may be. You're going to get your own support. Trevor Project, PFLAG, Equality Texas, if you're here in Texas, Lambda Legal. There are so many places. You may have a local pride organization in your city. Look for all of those. They can have parent support groups and also teen support groups. There's a lot that they can do. So I want you to tap in whatever way you can to any sort of support for yourself so that you're taking care of yourself, so that as you engage with your kid, your stuff isn't getting in the way, so that you are able to be fully externally focused on your kid. When parents are calm, regulated, grounded, this models compassionate leadership and security for their kid, which also helps that unaliving part kind of settle down a little bit. One piece of advice for parents before going into these conversations is that you just take a minute for yourself and all of your fearful parts that are freaking out right now. And you're just going to have a little conversation. Yep. I see you parts. I hear you. We're scared. But right now, we're going to chill out so that we can show up as a parent for our kid. Whatever has happened in your past around this particular topic needs to not show up right now, right? That's the part of you that you can talk about in therapy or with a friend or with some other support person. For right now, your strong part needs to come into play. Number 2, you are going to lead with connection and compassion and validation, like I talked about just a minute ago. So what are you going to do? 1, you're going to start by validating your teen's feelings or your friend's feelings or your loved one's feelings. Unaliving thoughts often come from a place of deep pain or feeling misunderstood. So saying things like, I can see how much pain you're in and I'm here for you, reassures them that they're not alone. So always remember, validation is simply the mechanism with which we join with someone else emotionally, not an agreement to a plan. So I'm validating you. I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. And I'm also going to keep you safe. That is what we're really trying to communicate to our kid. This helps because firefighters act in desperation. This is the end of the line. This is the final straw. So by the time your kid has gotten here, they are at the end of their rope. So they think there's no other outlet. There's no other way around it. They literally cannot see options right now. And so before they can see any sort of options, they need you to regulate them and to join with them. It's kind of like, I'm going to walk up to you. We're going to start a new dance, and I'm going to follow your lead for a little bit till I understand your type of dance. And then I'm going to put in a few steps of my own and slowly pivot the dance from the action that you want to take. Avoid judgment or minimizing the pain. We are not in fix it mode. We are in connect mode first. This is not take action time. Now, that might be a little bit different if you literally find your kid in the midst, right? This is not that situation. This is your kid is just starting to talk to you about potentially wanting to do something like that. And our parent part is going to freak out and be like, I got you, right? We're going to do this. And we're going to do this. We want to jump into action because our own brain and our own nervous system is jumping into fight or flight mode. Now's not the time. Now's the time to connect. Now, we might take some action, right? We might need to do something. That is true. But for the vast majority of scenarios in which you're going to find yourself, you have a minute, you have 5 minutes, maybe a day, maybe a couple days, maybe the weekend. Almost nothing needs an immediate reaction. And actually, when we immediately react, we don't always act in the best interest, ultimately, of our family, of ourselves, or of our kid. Some ways that you might unintentionally invalidate or minimize your kid is really about like kind of reassuring yourself, but it's actually comes off as dismissive. And that might be to say, like, it's not that bad. You'll grow out of it. Tomorrow's a new day, things like that. And the intent is to reassure. But in social work, we have this phrase, which is impact over intent. So while your intent is, keeping your kid here, the intent is to calm them down. For the vast majority of people, that is not how it lands. So we're just going to go with that knowledge, which is I'm not going to reassure. I'm just going to validate the feeling. Even if the kid is screaming at you, even if your kid is yelling at you, you're just going to be like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Can't make me leave. You are the kid's steady, bouncing ball, and they need you. This part might really get entrenched because it lives with the idea that there are no other options. And so as you're sitting here saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you, it might get a little more activated at first because it's like, no, 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 no. I have plan A. You are offering me plan B, potentially. And that means I've got to continue feeling pain, right? So just know that as you try and pivot your kid into joining with you, into a new way of moving forward, at first it's not going to like it because it doesn't see another option to end the pain. So just know that that's a thing that might happen and it's okay. Your messaging doesn't change. You still sit there with them, taking it. You're just going to take it. Now, nobody gets to treat you violently, but emotionally, you're going to take it. They might yell at you. And what I want you to do is say, that's really hard. In part because eventually what happens in everybody's nervous system is that it wants to regulate with you. We all have mirror neurons in our brain, and those mirror neurons want us to be equally in the same state. And what you're doing by remaining calm is you're talking to that kid's nervous system saying, nope, you're going to join me. You're not hijacking my nervous system. You're not going to ramp me up with you. You're staying with me. I got you. We're going to get calm. We're going to love each other, but you're going to join me. So I need you to be calm. I need you to not react. All right. Number 4 is we're going to create a sense of safety. So, what you're going to do is you're going to make your home a safe emotional space, safe physically, safe emotionally, biologically, all the things. And that is going to include affirming your teen's identity. You're going to use their chosen name, going to use their chosen pronouns. You're going to stand up for them when others don't. And you're going to address bullying very seriously. I want you to also act as a model for them. You're going to model what standing up looks like. So you could go out in public spaces, particularly if your teen is with you, and you're going to comment compassionately and lovingly and supportingly to any LGBT individuals you come across, right? You're going to be like, man, that person is glowing. Look at how amazing they are. If you see injustice, I want you to model what it is like to stand up for that person. Your kid is watching you. They're learning. They're seeing, do your words match your actions? They want to know. That unaliving part is testing. It wants to know, do you mean what you say? Or are you just here supporting me because you have your own agenda? Now, that may not be true, but that is what this particular part thinks and feels is true. And it doesn't know any other option. And remember, it's not even inside of a fully functioning brain. So it can't draw from logic and rationality like a fully functioning brain can. So we're not going to expect it to do that. Unaliving firefighters show up when the person feels unsafe, rejected, and knowing that it has an advocate here at home and an advocate on its side helps reduce that stress. So, just modeling and kind of showing your kid what you're about in and of itself can help lower the temperature of what might be going on for them. Number 5 is we're going to gently explore that firefighter's role. That might feel really, really scary, and that's okay. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. You're first in a moment of calm and quiet in the home. You're going to lock in curiosity. Curiosity is the only thing speaking in this moment to your kid. When you have these thoughts, what's happening for you? Is it trying to help you with something? And this can help them explore their emotions without feeling shame. Couple things you can do is say, right before you had that thought, what was going on? Were you at school? Were you watching something? You're going to get a little bit more information. And then you're going to say, what did you feel? What emotion did you notice? What did you feel in your body? With curiosity, it can decrease the shame and it can give you, the parent, a little bit better understanding of the role that this part is playing for your kid and what the needs might be, because there might actually be something that you can do. So let's say that the thoughts really came up during, a class in which they have to sit next to an aggressive person or an anti-LGBT person or something like that. Well, that can be a pretty simple problem fix where you can just say, hey, let's talk to the teacher about moving seats, right? So that can be a way that you can understand the needs of this particular part, what's triggering it to get really loud in your kid's head. There may actually be some really simple solutions for getting around that. Number 6, we're going to build up those protective factors. So it's kind of what I was talking about a minute ago in the last tip. We're going to help our kids strengthen their connections with friends, with an LGBTQIA plus community, with your local pride organization, see if there's some activities to do, or with mentors, coaches, friends, jobs, whatever, teachers. Is there a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance at their school? How might they get plugged into that? Do they know that that exists? So we're going to, again, bring in those communities, that wraparound support, and we're going to make sure that we are taking them there if they need transportation. We're going to go out of our way to ensure that we can help pay for gas, whatever the case may be, that we are supporting them accessing that support. That means here at home, maybe they're too afraid to dress as the gender that they identify if they're in a particularly unsafe environment. Let's have our home be that safe environment. Encourage them to maybe they only feel safe enough to dress how they want to dress in their bedroom. That's okay. They can do that. Let's ask them, hey, can you wear some underclothing that might support your gender expression? Whatever the case may be, we want to build up all of those protective factors. The next thing we're going to do is de-shame these desires to check out. And we're just going to say, it's okay. Thank you for letting me know. It's brave of you to share that with me. You're not broken or wrong for feeling this way. Maybe share with them a time you kind of felt that way. When I was a teenager, I also felt that way and tried to do the same thing. I saw no other way out. And while it might feel really scary and vulnerable to share that with your kiddo, it's so contextualizing. It's putting your money where your mouth is. It's joining with them in a really human way and normalizing that they're not alone by sharing that piece with you. It makes them feel joined with, and it lets them know that you're really here and that you get it. You can let them know of another story, maybe that was really hard for you that you made it through, or a time that you also wanted to just escape, because just know that the desire to complete this act is really just part of our flight system. Our fight or flight response is just a form of flight. How do I get out of here? How do I escape this pain? So maybe talk about another time in your life in which you desperately wanted to get away from the pain and saw no other way out. That can normalize their experience, and that alone acts as a de-shaming strategy. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on affirmation, not perfection. So we're going to emphasize that unconditional, positive love and acceptance, and that is unwavering. I don't know about you, but I think there is literally nothing my kids could do that would make me not love them. There's a lot that they could do that would make me not like them very much. There's a lot they do that I disagree with, but I always love them. I might let them suffer the consequences of their actions, and I have, and they get pretty mad about it, and that's okay, but I still love them. So, this step is really about affirming and strengthening that messaging of love. One of the easiest ways that you can do this, and this, I don't remember where this idea came from, but whatever, is when your kid walks in a room, let your face light up with all the love you have for your kid. Let that love come pouring out of you. Let it show up on your face every time your kid walks in a room, and not in like some creepy way, even though your kid's going to say it's creepy. That's fine. They secretly love it. Let them put their head on your lap. Any small hint of reaching out for you, respond. I know one of my kids has some sensory issues, and hugs are kind of uncomfortable. But he sits in a chair, and whenever I walk by, he puts his hand out for a high five, and I hit it every single time. Do I want more affection? Yes. I want this kid who's now weighs more than me by a lot and is a lot taller than me because I'm pretty short at 5'2". I'd still want him to come snuggle up in bed with me. Come join me in here, right? That is not what my kid wants to do. A high five is about all they can tolerate. That's fine. The other thing you can do with a kid like that is press hands against each other so your body is still getting that pressure. Deep pressure is super regulating for our nervous system. So you can do something like that. There's just a lot of different ways you can focus on that affirmation and connection that really communicates this idea of, I love you for who you are, and nothing will ever change that. I would encourage you to say that to your kid and also show it with action, but you're really just communicating that no matter what, your life is important to me, and I love you for who you are, not for what you do, not for your grades, not for your position in the band, not for being on the football team. I love you. One thing to remember is that our LGBTQIA plus friends, loved ones, colleagues, Facebook friends, social media friends, but especially our children are facing a lot of discrimination right now. Rejection, bullying, and it's pretty disgusting. So anything that we can do to combat that shows I love you is really, really important and validating to combat all of this messaging. And honestly, you can't say it enough. It takes about 4 times 4 positive things to combat one negative thing. And if they've heard 10 negative things that day about their identity, then that means they're going to need to hear 40 positive things. So trust me, you can't say it enough. The next one is probably going to be the hardest. I know it's the hardest for me, and I'm a trauma therapist, so I can only imagine that it's hard for everybody. And that is during crisis moments, you're going to stay present and calm. Remember, a minute ago, I talked about how your kid's freaking out and might argue with you, and I want you to stay calm because their nervous system is going to want to join with yours eventually. This is definitely when it matters. Your kid's freaking out, they're losing it, and they are actively trying to accomplish this task of unaliving themselves. Or they're having these really strong driving urges. I want you to take a deep breath. A couple things you can do is squeeze your fists really, really tight. You can shrug up your whole body, try and tighten every single muscle in your body, and then relax it. It's going to help you stay regulated. Hold on to a rock, something that, can help you get some aromatherapy going. I don't care. Anything you got to do to stay calm is what you're going to do. Hopefully it'll also help your kid. Maybe have your kid do it with you if they're able to in that moment. You're going to stay calm. You're going to stay present physically and emotionally, and you're not solving. We're not fixing. We're not solving. We're just staying present. We're not calling immediately for a hotline. We're going to get everybody nice and regulated and then decide if that's what still needs to happen. Presence reduces the isolation that fuels these thoughts. It also helps ground their overwhelmed nervous system. So this is going to be really, really scary for them as well as you. But I want you to kind of get the idea that calmness is what decides things. Curiosity, compassion, and connection is the state that we want to be in when we're going to make a decision. Calm, clear, connected. Those are the embodied places we want to be in before we make a decision moving forward. It's not that we're not going to do that thing. And if your kid is really driving you to make a decision, you're not gonna. That's the boundary, right? Not making a decision until we're all on the same page, until we're all calm. No decisions get made. And that's a statement for yourself too, and your kid, right? So whenever you're saying these things out loud, you're also reminding yourself, nope, we're not making a decision. That is not to say we're not going to end up doing that thing, okay? I want you to know that. There are absolutely times when that is the appropriate thing to do, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it when we're calm. We're going to do it when we're clear. And that is what you're going to remind yourself. You're going to remind your kid. Now, maybe you need to come up with a mantra. Like one of the things that I do is I ask myself, am I calm, clear, collected? No? All right, then I need to not make a decision right now. I need to be calm, clear, and collected before I decide the next step. The next thing we're going to do is a little lighter. We are going to maintain predictable routines. So whenever we keep consistent routines, like regular meal times, bedtime rituals, family check-ins, chores, things like that, it really provides a regulatory practice and stance for our kids and our home and ourselves and our own nervous system. Because part of what's happening is that these problems feel so big and overwhelming that it feels like It's all encompassing. It's 100% of the time. Now, by having these regulating stances, these regulating routines that are kind of boring, it's actually this very calming thing in our nervous system that says, oh, okay, well, the world might be burning down, but I still got to take out the garbage can, right? The world might be a dumpster fire, but the dishwasher also still needs to be emptied, or still got to make dinner. The dog still needs to be fed, right? It's so comforting. Even if they're grumpy with you, it's just so comforting to know that, like, well, I feel like my world is ending. Oh, but there's still dirty dishes in the sink, right? It's extremely calming. So I really, really want you to lean into whatever routines have worked best for your family. Anything unpredictable kind of already brings our nervous system a little whoop, like a little bump, right? Kind of a bump up. So we don't want to make that worse or trigger it in any way. So you're just going to stay locked into predictability, which might be boring. That's okay. But it's going to like make sure that their nervous system stays a little calm. One of the most validating things I have ever heard from a member of the LGBTQIA plus community was how when they came out to their parents many years ago, that they were had intense anxiety and it felt like they were on the verge of a panic attack. And that their parent was like, okay, very nonplussed, very not excitable, and said, all right, well, I still need you to empty the dishwasher. And that for a moment, it caught them off guard, like, my whole world is imploding, but you still want that. And it helps them realize that, like, even if I feel like my world is ending, it's not actually ending. And it was very regulating for them and containing for them to hear that from their own parent of like, yep, whoever you are, whatever you are, however you identify is not a big deal to me because I love you no matter those things. And I still expect you to do your homework, clean your bedroom, and empty the dishwasher. And that was very containing for them. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, your kid may or may not hate it, but they're going to secretly love it. And so we're going to engage in grounding activities together. And these don't have to be major things. It's not like you got to go out and spend a bunch of money or something like that. We're going to do simple, present focused activities as a family or as parent and child, like baking cookies, going for a walk, gardening, working on a puzzle. You know, you might want to play a game, but for some families that gets a little, competitive. We don't want to do something that's competitive right now when your kid is actively feeling this way. It's not the time. But do really lovely, kind of boring, connecting activities together. Think about this like identifying some glimmers, right? You're reminding your kid that there is still calm in the world. There are still moments of respite from the dumpster fire, right? It's kind of boring. It's kind of regulating. That's okay. Your kid may not like it. That's all right. They might say they hate it. That's okay. We're really not talking to the part of them that is actively talking to you necessarily. We're actually connecting with their inner wounded part. So think about when your kid was like 2 and their feelings were hurt, they were sad and crying. I want you to picture that version of them in your mind as you interact with this teenager, because that version of them is still there. And that version of them is the wounded, scared part that needs reassurance from the strong, connected parent that you are or that you can be. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on small, achievable goals. So you're going to help your kid set very, very small, attainable goals. Maybe cleaning their room is too big, and maybe it's just bring me the dishes that you've stored in your room and under your bed, right? Maybe it's just picking up the trash. Maybe it's starting the washing machine, right? Or completing a simple art project. or helping with dinner prep, right? I have rheumatoid arthritis and my hands are not doing great. It's winter time and whatever. That's kind of how it goes. So I have my kids help me like chop vegetables or do things with my hands, and they love it. They feel so needed, but it's a really small task. And by making that task really small, they still feel part of what I'm doing. They feel like they're helping me, but it's not dysregulating and it's not too much. So they still feel part of what we're doing as a family, but, not overwhelmed by it. And also, they hang out with me a little bit in the kitchen and we get a few minutes anyway of some time together. So think about ways that your kids can just do one small thing that is important. Maybe it's just taking out the trash, whatever that might, watering the plants, right? Whatever that might be, just focus on these really, really tiny, small, achievable goals. We're going to verbally reassure and validate the kids. You're going to offer frequently, a lot of times a day, a lot of times a day, frequently, we're going to verbally reassure and validate our kids. You're going to say things like, we got you. We got this. We're not going anywhere. We won't let you fail. You might have said these things before. Your kid might respond with like, I know, yeah, whatever, right? It's irrelevant. How your kid replies is irrelevant. You're just going to keep saying it. Yeah, we got this. Yep, I got you. Won't let you fail. We're not going anywhere. I think of this as time in. I'm giving you time in my love, in my presence, in how I feel about you. In trauma work, there's a concept called a disconfirming experience. And we use it when we think about like people that have trauma or anxiety or depression. This feels like it will always be there. This problem will never go away. And how we combat that is that we remind people of the opposite is true. Well, we start by reminding people until they can remember themselves and embody it themselves that the opposite is also true. It's both and. It's not one or the other. It's not black and white and it's not 100%. All the time. I love you. I'm here with you. I got you. We got this, right? Is this constant disconfirming belief an alternative to what their brain is just saying over and over and over and over again, which is there's no hope and there's nobody here. So every time you say, we got this and we got you and we're not going anywhere, you're reminding all the other parts of your kid that there are options and they're not alone. One of my very, very favorites is we're going to talk about a lot the glimmers and the joys of everyday life. So, once a day, every day, multiple times a day, you literally cannot do this activity too much. We're going to help our kids identify the glimmers. So, a glimmer is the opposite of a trigger. The glimmer is the small moments of joy that you get every day in your life. And so, it might be for me, first smell of coffee in the morning. For some people, it's the sunset or the sunrise or seeing the full moon. For some people, it's climbing into bed at night in your warm, comfy, cozy place. Sometimes it's the smell of your pet. Whatever it is, the tiny, tiny glimmers. What I want you to do is model it. You're going to, maybe it's a conversation you have as a family once a day, but you're going to model for your kid what was your favorite moment of that day or that week. Maybe it's a weekly activity, but you're just going to model for your kid what your favorite moment of each day was and ask them what their favorite moment of each day was. And I don't care how small that moment was. You're going to be like, that's amazing. I want a big reaction. That was spectacular. And then with curiosity, you're going to say, how did you feel in that moment? What emotions did you notice? Where did you feel that in your body? Then you're going to say, what did you believe about yourself in that moment? Remember, this is rooted in that disconfirming belief. And we're going to flesh it out and we're going to expand this little teeny tiny glimmer into something bigger so that that glimmer becomes a flame. So that ember starts a fire of positivity in your kid. But it starts with a little teeny tiniest moment. And as you have your kid embody that after you model it, that your kid will start to have a spiral upward. Finally, we're going to highlight life's rhythms and joys. So we're going to point out everyday examples of life continuing and moving on, like the changing seasons, flowers blooming, the seasons changing, things like that. We're going to anchor them in the rhythm of life, in the rhythm of nature. In part, what this is showing to them is that everything is temporary. There is nothing you can rely on except change. One day is one day, one week is one week. And no matter what, whether you're here or not, the sun will rise, the seasons will change, the years will change. Everything has a season, and everything, every moment is temporary, including this one. So, what you're really reminding them of is that life continues no matter what. It can help them hold on to this idea that change is inevitable. Whatever is dark becomes light. Whatever is light will become dark too. There is a crest and a swell of every wave. One of the things that we've been talking about in my family is history. And we've been talking about World War II, World War I, the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, things like that. And what was it like for people in those moments? How long ago did that thing happen? Right. And how even that, dark, dark time that probably didn't look like it had an end came to an end. The Depression era, the Spanish flu, COVID. A lot of our kids will remember COVID, but look at that. We thought masks were going to be forever. Sometimes lockdown felt like forever, and it wasn't. So we're going to remind them of all of these seasons that felt like forever that didn't last for forever, right? That even the longest night gave way to the dawn. Here is my final bonus tip, cautionary tale, whatever the case may be. Sometimes kids are very, very smart, and they may learn that, hey, talking about this is getting me a lot of attention. And it's true, right? They're getting a lot of attention. And they may start thinking, if I keep saying this, that's going to give me a lot of attention. And we don't want them to necessarily keep going with that path, right? So, what I say in these moments is, yeah, you're right. I take this topic very, very seriously. All stops happen. We don't go any further. You're thinking about this, I'm going to lock you into my love and care. And that means I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what, even from yourself. Now, to the kid that might be manipulating this situation or learning this gets me a lot of attention, what I first want you to know is every kid needs attention. Every kid, every person needs connection. And so, whether they're seriously considering this act or whether they're realizing that this is a step for getting attention, the underlying need is the same, is that they need attention. So, no matter what, we're going to give them connection. We're going to give them attention. We're going to use curiosity to explore further what benefit are they getting from this strategy of connecting with you. We're going to expand into other ways of connecting with you that may not be so dire. We're going to bring in professional support, as I've advised through this whole thing. In fact, if your kid is potentially using this to manipulate you, it doesn't really matter. The steps don't change. What they're going to learn is that they're either getting the attention that they need and they want, or they're not. When they realize this is not working to manipulate you, they're going to change their tactic. A lot of times, parents feel like they've got to walk on eggshells, that anything they do, any requirement that they have, any chore they give is going to push their kid over the edge. And your kid might react really, really big with you. And that's just scary. So come up with a mantra for yourself. Nope, I'm here, not going anywhere. I won't let you fail. I'm not going to let you harm yourself no matter what, no matter how much you yell at me, no matter how scary that firefighter might be. I am not backing down from my love. My love doesn't change no matter what you do. And I'm going to keep you safe even from yourself. Knowing that your kid also needs the regulation of doing the dishes, doing their chores, whatever the case may be. And if your kid is so unstable that loving compassion and curiosity and regulating and following these steps is not helping, please get help. I want all of us to get professional help. Hell, I mean, I'm a therapist. I have a therapist. I had therapy yesterday. I need support. We all need support right now. Don't be afraid of that. Get support for yourself. Find your own supportive community. PFLAG, excellent, amazing organization that is all about supporting families and loved ones. So take a deep breath. If you walk on eggshells, you're actually validating to your kid, you're validating to this part of them that this is scary and worthy of walking on eggshells, that this part of them is so scary, even you're scared of it. That is not what your kid needs right now. What your kid needs is your strong back. What your kid needs is those bumper rails. Your kid needs those strong arms wrapped around them. And when they have that, they go, okay, their whole nervous system will react. It'll calm down and it'll be okay. I hope that this has been helpful for you. Comment below if you need anything. Comment below if you have any more questions. If you don't know of any resources, visit our website, unbrokenabundance.com. We have therapists who can work with you. If you're in Texas, we take insurance. We have members of the LGBTQIA plus community on staff ready to see you, but find someone that works well for you and your family. We're going to get through this together. I know through loving compassion and curiosity that we can make it through just about anything in this world. And I'll catch you next time.